Tai sveiki visi prisijungę prie Verslo akceleratoriaus virtualios paskaitos. Kas dar nespėjo susipažinti su šia programa, norėčiau trumpai apie ją papasakot. Verslo akceleratorius yra pirmoji Lietuvoje verslo akceleravimo programa skirta mažoms ir vidutinio dydžio įmonėms. Ir šios programos tikslas yra padėti įmonėms, kurios yra patyrusios verslo sąstingį, augti ne per didelės investicijas į verslo plėtrą, o pasitelkiant inovacijas. Verslo akceleratorius turi atvirą 6 virtualių paskaitų ciklą, kurių metu ne tik programos dalyviai, bet ir visi norintys gali išgirsti ir išmokti pagrindinių principų, vystant inovatyvią verslo idėją. Registracija į renginius ir visą aktualią informaciją apie programos kitus renginius galite rasti seb.lt/akceleratorius verslui internetinėme puslapyje bei SEB Lietuvoje Facebook paskyroje. Šiandien tai jau yra 3. renginys ir šio renginio svečias yra Prospect Labs bendrai įkūrėjas, akceleratoriaus Startup Wise Guys plėtros vadovas ir growth hacking ekspertas Patrick Collins. Jis šiandieną su jumis pasidalins praktinėmis žiniomis, kaip sėkmingai parduoti inovatyvią idėją efektyviausiais būdais. Tai nieko nelaukus, norėčiau perduoti žodį Patrickui. So, Patrick, I would like to welcome you on our virtual stage and give a word to you.
Good morning, everybody. So thank you for the kind introduction, Simona. I'll very quickly share my screen and hope that's okay. So good morning, everybody. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule. I appreciate you'll all probably be working from home on a very cold Tuesday morning, but I'm hoping I can give you a presentation that can really excite you. So to get started, I think it's worth very quickly introducing myself and who I am and why am I in a position to help you today. So I've worked with startups for about 15 years now, everything from doing cold calling, being an intern, lead generation, marketing, sales, hiring, operations. I've had opportunities to work with a range of startups, but also SMBs and also a very small selection of corporates. So I find that my superpower, it's a little bit cheesy, but my expertise is working with any type of company, trying to understand your target audience, your service that you offer, and how to find growth tactics of how to find your next customer. A small sort of fun fact about me, I'm an ex-professional footballer. So from the age of 16 to 22, I was a professional footballer playing for the England youth teams and playing in the English Championship and part of the Premiership. So although it's not directly related to business, I find that sort of competitive level, that attention to detail, that ambition to be best in the world, these sorts of things have rubbed off, and you'll see throughout my talk how that can have an impact. So I think if you want to email me, patrick@startwiseguys.com, or you can see my LinkedIn profile there, and I'm always available to try and help anybody who needs support. So to get started, before I actually introduce the topic, before we get going with everything, there are a few things that I think are critically important for today. And the main one is, how are you today? The reason I ask this is because whenever I'm training teams, they often say, do not get nervous, do not get scared that you're the center of attention. And yes, I get excited, I prepare well, I really enjoy what I'm doing, but I'm not the center of attention here. All of you are the center of my attention. My only job today is to try and add value to what you're doing, inspire you, try and show you new techniques, try and give you that push to say there's more you can do, try and give you some positivity if things are going wrong with sales, to think there are new tools that can really help you. So I want to check in with you, and I want you to check in with yourself and think, are you mentally in the right frame of mind today where you really want to apply this? The other thing is anything urgent you need to do. So it's virtual, you might be having your breakfast, you might be watching, you might have dogs barking, whatever it is, but try and just quickly write a few notes, get things out the way that I can get about 60 to 90 minutes of your concentration. Because if I can, the things that I'm going to teach you, you can apply directly to your business literally today. So this isn't a theoretical, you can achieve this in a couple of years. This is in 90 minutes time, log into a website and start doing the things I'm going to show you. So just make sure you can try and find that happy place where you're focused at the moment. And then the final thing is, why are you even here? Have you stumbled across a TV channel? Have you stumbled across a Facebook group? Has your boss introduced you to this and you don't even know why you're here? Try and find your anchoring of why are you watching me today? What do you want to achieve? And then when this finishes, apply that. Email me and ask for help. Email me and ask for an introduction. Chase up somebody to say, I think we need to implement this. Log into one of the softwares and test it out. But don't just be a person that watches tons of talks and does nothing about it. Watch the talk, test something, and improve. Even if it's a tiny percentage today, you'll see that that sort of comparative training will help you get huge results. The other thing about today is don't feel overwhelmed if a lot of this stuff doesn't make sense. It's not supposed to. What I'm trying to show you today is brand new things that probably nobody you work with or know or read are doing these sorts of things. So this is to inspire you to say, this is what's possible, and it is very easy to do in the right way. Okay, so I think before we go into the main topic of today, which is automation, it's growth hacking, it's personalization, I want to start right from the start, which would make sense. And the starting point is, what's the traditional way of making sales? So if you're in a B2B business and today you want to find new customers, what's the traditional way? And the traditional way at the moment is a few things. The three main ones are LinkedIn, email, and calling. So on LinkedIn, you might find somebody, so you can see an example here of Martina, who she'll find my account on LinkedIn, click my profile, click connect, write a short note possibly, and click send. Or Dejan, that you can see below, didn't write a message, just clicked connect. And the goal here is they want me to accept the message, and then they'll introduce themselves, their business, and see if I can have a call, sign up to their webinar, download their guide, use their software, whatever it may be. Likewise with email, you might find somebody's email address, send them a cold email to introduce yourself. Very simply, hi, this is what I do, would love to have a chat with you, are you interested? And the third one is calling. You'll just pick up the phone, ring somebody and say, hi, can I speak to Patrick? I would like to introduce my business. Now, all three of these marketing channels are amazing, and particularly calling. If you can be very strong at picking up the phone and calling, it's amazing. But imagine the situation you're in at the moment. You call an office and it's either no answer or somebody says everybody's working from home. You'll either get directed or they'll just say, we'll get back to you. So cold calling has changed. You can't just ring a business. Cold emailing, with GDPR now, it's much more difficult, but not impossible, to email in the right way. Also, a lot of people view email as spam if not done in the right way. They get tons of emails, nothing personalized, they don't open, they mark it as spam, it damages your business, your reputation, it can even damage your domain, where a lot of your emails may go to their spam inbox in the future. And then LinkedIn. Literally as recent as I would say last week, LinkedIn have updated their algorithms. LinkedIn are getting very, very strict. So if you just find a list of people and click connect, 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 no message, no reason why you know each other, nothing in common, no trust, LinkedIn will start flagging your account and suspending your account. So basically what it means is the traditional sales that you are doing now of LinkedIn, email, and calling are getting stricter. The bar is raising in terms of you need to do more than what you're currently doing if you're going to get results. So if you think about this, you've been doing LinkedIn, you've been doing email, and you've been doing calling. And in the past, you were trying this and you were thinking, okay, it's working okay. But some of you out there will be thinking, there's got to be a quicker way. I would say I'm the most efficient and lazy person you'll ever meet. And what I mean by that is I don't see the point of doing something repetitive if there's a formula for doing it once that I can scale it. So if I see that I can send one email manually and it works well, I can send 10 emails manually and it can work well. I'm looking for a way to send 1,000 per month without manually sending. Same with LinkedIn, and unfortunately, you can't really have a bot that's making calls for you, although maybe in the future, but definitely with LinkedIn and email, you'll be thinking of, there must be ways to automate this. And a lot of you out there will have heard of softwares like MailChimp or MailerLite based in Lithuania, Mailshake. You'll heard of LinkedIn tools. There's ones called DuckSoup. There's lots of different LinkedIn tools. But the idea is, even if you haven't used these yet, you'll be thinking there must be a quicker way of doing this. However, this is the problem. If you Google list of banned LinkedIn automation software, for example, what you're going to find is such contrasting information. Some people will say how LinkedIn automation tools will destroy your account. Never use LinkedIn automation tools. Then you'll see another blog, how to use LinkedIn to scale your efforts. It is a bit like common news at the moment. If you research anything, they'll say it's great, it's bad, and you just don't know where to look. So what I want to do to start with is just try and give you the truth on what LinkedIn automation or what email automation tools you can do and what's the background behind this. Because the most feedback I get is people to say, I like doing manual sales. If I try and automate this, it's spam. Or if I try and automate this, it's not personalized at all. And so people can tell it's an automated message. Or they say, is this even legal? Can I do this? Or will I get into trouble? Will I damage my account? That sort of thing. So this is my take on what I see. So to be completely open and honest, LinkedIn don't want you to automate anything. So what I'm going to show you in all the talk today, LinkedIn don't really want you to do it. But LinkedIn is a weird place. The reason behind this is LinkedIn don't want you to automate anything, but if you're using the right tools, they can never detect it. So they don't know if you're automating something or not. But the problem with LinkedIn is they have a strict set of rules that are different to every LinkedIn profile, every user behavior. And if you break the rules, you're in trouble, but they won't tell you the rules. So they won't say to you how many people you can connect with. They won't say to you how many people can click ignore if they don't want to connect with you. They won't let you know how many people you can connect with per day or the volume of people. They won't let you know which tools you can do and which tools you can't do. So LinkedIn is a weird place. However, they'll still let you pay to use InMails. So LinkedIn will still say you're not allowed to message anybody that you don't know, but if you can pay, then you can. So to me, that's almost like bribery. LinkedIn are saying you can't use that tool without us telling you the rules, but if you pay us, then okay, we'll let you know. So it's a weird place. So what you have to do with LinkedIn is not go 100%, but find a way to go 70% speed every day, all week on automation. So what I'm going to show you today is the type of LinkedIn automation you can do that will really scale your business. Also, LinkedIn only want you to connect with people you know and trust. So somebody emailed me last week and said, LinkedIn have flagged my account. So what this means is that on LinkedIn, when you try and connect with somebody, you'll see a message saying you need the email address to connect with this person. And this is called LinkedIn jail. It's just a made-up term, but basically you're in trouble with LinkedIn either for a couple of hours, a couple of days, a month, or indefinitely, depending on how many times you've done it and how much of a repeat offender you've been. But LinkedIn only want you to connect with people you know and trust, and that's their terms and conditions. Now, the problem with this is, imagine after this webinar, a lot of you go on LinkedIn and connect with me because you've watched my talk. I don't know and trust you, but we have something in common. You've watched my talk, we'd like to get to know each other. But if I don't know you and don't know your name, and if you don't write a message and I click ignore, your LinkedIn account could get flagged for messaging people you don't know and trust. So the problem is LinkedIn have not adapted to coronavirus. They've not adapted to know that to know somebody and trust them, you've got to reach out and make a relationship first. So to me, LinkedIn is a platform where everybody's a stranger until they're a friend. A little bit like how I see the world at the moment. If I go to a networking meeting, I don't think I'm going to spam people. I'm going to speak to lots of people and hopefully we'll get to know each other and hopefully we could work together and become good friends. But everybody's a stranger until they're a friend. So this policy of LinkedIn to say you should only connect with people you know and trust, I highly disagree with, because of 250 million people on LinkedIn platform, a lot of those people could become my clients if I reach out to them. The final thing is with emailing. A lot of people got very spooked when GDPR was released and they thought, okay, emailing is dead. And I was one of the first one. I reached out to a friend straight away and said, GDPR means cold email is game over. And he said, no, not at all. GDPR means that you have to up your game on email. You need to be more compliant. So very quickly, things like you need to be sending people that have a legitimate interest in what you're doing. You need to only email business emails, and you need to give people a right to unsubscribe and not be contacted again. But to me, that's common sense anyway. But you can still email anybody you want from a business if it's a relevant person. So the truth of all of this is, yes, you can use LinkedIn automation. Yes, you can do email automation, but you need to do it in the right way. And to do it in the right way means you need to be acting as if everything is personalized and you know these people. So the interaction of email opens, LinkedIn connections, email replies, LinkedIn replies are very high, as high as you are messaging one of your friends. And this is what I really want to show you today. So what's the solution for 2020? What's the solution and the way to act and scale automation that actually gets highly personalized rates and highly responsive activity? And it's this phrase, dynamic automated personalization. So to start with, I want to show you this. So this is a site called Hyperrise, hyperrise.io. And I'm going to explain this to you. And if we were face to face, I can already picture what your face is like. I don't get this. I don't know what's going on. So I'm going to explain this really, really slowly. What this tool will do is if you add some tracking code to your website from Hyperrise, a little bit like you would add Google Analytics code, you can start to track people visiting your site. And what you can do with your website is you can change the message on your website based on the person who's visiting you. So either based on the IP, so if somebody's from Lithuania, the text could be in Lithuanian, somebody in England, text could be English. But even more than that, you can change the message based on the person that is visiting your site. So what I mean by this is have a look at this example here. So this is an example of a website. And what you can do is change the sort of merge tags on the website to be bespoke to the person who's visiting. So instead of build and grow stronger relationships, it will say build and grow stronger SEB relationships on social, or Prospect Labs, or Nike, or Adidas, or whatever it is. So the point is that anybody visiting your website doesn't see a generic message. The website speaks to you directly. And so if you see an example that I was working on last night, this is a real example. So this is me recording my screen on my website, making my website bespoke to everybody I message. So imagine this sort of experience. You all email me today, or you subscribe to my newsletter and you say, thanks for the talk, Pat, learned a lot, was great. I then send you my email newsletter. Any of you that click on it and you go back to my website will not see a general message. You will see Simona, a LinkedIn lead generation tool focused on helping Simona generate more leads. The most powerful LinkedIn automation tool for whoever it is, for Nike, for Adidas, for whatever company it is. So the point is, your whole site is now not an idea that you have to make bespoke landing pages. Everything in your website is individual. And why I think this is so important is this completely changes the game. So if you're thinking about in the past, you've maybe been advised to say, make different parts of your website for different people. So maybe you have a landing page for one industry compared to a landing page for other industries. Or you might have a landing page based on target audience. So if I'm targeting CEOs, I'm going to lead them to a page which is all about how to manage your team. If I'm targeting salespeople, it's all about how to improve your results and get better commission. That was in the past. Now, you don't need multiple pages. You need one website, but you make the website individual based on the people that visit. And if you think about more steps here, this doesn't have to be just your homepage. This can be every page you do. So if you have a look at my website here, on the top left, this is showing my normal page, customers. And the tagline says, we love showing you how to generate more leads from LinkedIn. And it's got a stream of testimonials that I'm very proud of. However, if you look on the right-hand side, what you'll see here is actually what the person sees when I send. So I sent an email to Alexa saying, would you like to try Prospect Labs? And she clicked on customers. What she saw was, Alexa, we would love you to become our customer. So the whole idea of this is that the website is speaking to Alexa on the home page, on the customer page, even on the blog. I've created a blog called How to Optimize Your LinkedIn Profile. And when people read the blog, it isn't a generic LinkedIn profile. The picture that they're learning how to optimize is your LinkedIn profile. So it's pulled it from your LinkedIn account onto my blog as an image. So I really want you to try and understand this, that this completely changes the game. If you think about from today moving forward, you now know that your website Oh, so is it okay? Okay, thank you. So sorry about that if there's a few sound problems, but it should be back now. So what I was saying was your website is completely bespoke now in terms of anybody that's visiting. And this should create a lot of inspiration to think, well, how can I get people to my site and how can I convert them? And this takes us to our next point. So I would say a quick tick in terms of website we've sort of covered. A huge amount of exploratory that you can do, but the website is called hyperrise.io. And I would say it took me about 3 days of learning to go from not understanding this at all, to getting a demo, to reading the blog, to testing it on their website. And that second where you start to edit your website and see how quickly it is with no development skills, no coding, anything like that, you simply install a Chrome plugin, click on your website, and you can see how you can change it. Your mind will be blown with thinking, wow, I can do some amazing things here. And one thing about this is personalization. This doesn't mean cheesiness. Now, some examples you'll see are very, very cheesy and silly. I don't think it has to be. If I can have my website to say, Simona, the best LinkedIn lead generation tool to help Simona, that's going to be much better than saying a LinkedIn lead generation tool to help you. So getting a website to interact, and if you do it subtly, will impress people so much because they can feel like you're on top of what you're doing and you're trying to make this experience personalized for them. However, one of the big problems is this. That's wonderful. My website's highly bespoke. I can really convert people, but nobody visits my website. What do I do? And it's a fair question that a lot of you look at the next steps of how do you actually get people to go from Google, LinkedIn, emails, whatever it is, to come to this fantastic website you've created that's now bespoke and interacting with people. And this is my approach. And I'll leave the slide on for a little bit because this is my blueprint that you might want to write down. You might want to take a screenshot, whatever you would like to do. But this is a formula that I've come up with constant progression over the past couple of years. And I've found that if I stick to this, it gets consistent results. And the reason behind this is if you look at the left-hand side, you have 4 blocks on LinkedIn. And the reason I start with LinkedIn is because LinkedIn is one of the biggest databases in the world for business people. If you think of where to find your target audience, you can Google companies, but it's very varied. You can look on Facebook, but it's all about consumers, not necessarily businesses. There's Instagram, there's Twitter, there's even business directories that you have to pay for. But most of the time, anybody that you work with, sell to, hire, or somebody tries to sell to you is on LinkedIn. Now, there are small caveats. You might have Russia, you might have China, you might even have people in agriculture that don't use LinkedIn. So I appreciate this is not perfect for everybody. But if you think of something called the Pareto principle, the 80-20 split, where 80% of the outcomes are from 20% of the causes, if you use LinkedIn as your starting point, 80% of your target audience will be on there without even thinking of anything else. And this is specific to B2B. For B2C, I appreciate you might do ads, you might want app downloads. It's a little bit different. But this is for B2B. People who are wanting to make sales, know people are somewhere on LinkedIn, but what do you do? And so this is where we start. So I would say there's 4 blocks: LinkedIn search, LinkedIn groups, LinkedIn content, and LinkedIn learning. And what I do is find my target audience from one of those 4 blocks. Once I found them, I use this tool called Phantom Buster, which I'm going to show you today. And Phantom Buster is, I would say, the most powerful tool you can use as a growth hacker. And what I mean by a growth hacker is basically anybody who wants to scale their sales, speed things up quicker than the traditional way of manual researching or getting a developer or outsourcing it to find the data. This will give you the power for Phantom Buster to find your target audience, download them, and within seconds, you have 1,000 people on a spreadsheet that you can identify clearly. These are my target audience. So I'm going to show you about this tool today. And then from there, I use 2 tools for lead generation. Snovio, which is snov.io, is the email platform I use, and Prospect Labs is the LinkedIn automation tool. That's my own software. Between these 2 tools, there are a range of tools out there. So I'm fairly agnostic when I introduce people and when I do talks of which tools you should use. However, for the specific of today and hyper-personalization, It's why I'm going to show you these two tools today. But there are a range of tools on the market that you can use that can do similar sorts of work. So if we start with this one, LinkedIn Learning. Now, it's not too interactive today, so I'm not going to ask you questions, but I want you to think yourself, have you ever used LinkedIn Learning? Do you even know what it is? Did you know it exists? So if you want to do this in the background just now, if you Google LinkedIn Learning and click on it, you'll find a platform that you can see on the left-hand side here. And LinkedIn Learning is all free courses, or well, the majority are free, which are online training about basically anything. So a lot of the topics that your business offers or the service you offer, there may be a course on LinkedIn Learning. So let me explain a bit more context. So I was working with a startup that has an HR software. So their startup helps you to manage your team, helps you to manage motivation, helps you to manage things like team feedback, onboarding, that sort of thing. So what they simply did on LinkedIn Learning is they searched for HR courses, and they looked for all of the courses that are helping you to learn about how to become better at HR, human resources. And what they found was, in this same example here with lead generation, you find something like 50 or 60 different courses. And if you click on the course, each course will say how many people like the course. In this example here on advanced lead generation, there's 2,000 people or over 2,000 people like the course. So what this basically means is that this is public information that these people have an interest in this course. And so by default, if they're interested in something like advanced lead generation, they're the perfect target audience who I want to speak to introduce my LinkedIn software. So what you can do very simply is click on all the people who like the course, see the drop down, and you'll see all the people there. Now, the reason this is amazing is if you've already had this idea, so if any of you out there are thinking of running an online course, which is obviously a very hot topic at the moment, based on the world we're living in at the moment and how it might be indefinitely, trying to shift from physical to online for your service is very, very important. The reason we're doing this talk now online. So you need to find a way to adapt. And a lot of people are trying to run online courses. And if you are, LinkedIn Learning is probably the only platform I know in the world where it publicly shows the people who like their courses. So if you think of things like Udemy or Coursera or any programs that you've tried or any online training you've tried, there's no chance that the company would publicly advertise all the people who like the course because that's their customers. However, on LinkedIn, it's here in front of you, staring you in the face. So if you go to LinkedIn Learning, find a course where your target audience are interested in training themselves on, filter it by, I don't know, level of expertise, filter it by types of software, the subject, whatever it is, you'll find a list of courses that are relevant to you. And from these courses, you can then click on all the people who like the courses and have a list of people there. Now, we could just stop there and say, these people you can connect with one by one, introduce yourself and say, hey, Martin, I saw you on the advanced lead generation course on LinkedIn. I really like it also. It would be great to connect. And then when they connect, thanks for connecting, Martin. I've got my own LinkedIn software. Are you interested in trying? A really great way of doing lead generation. However, it's very, very manual. So hold this thought for one way, and I'm going to show you how you can automate that. But the other way, apart from LinkedIn Learning, is LinkedIn content. So a lot of times people will say, I just don't know what to write on LinkedIn. I've got a business, I've got a product, but it's not such a sexy brand. It's not something with beautiful Instagram pictures of food or traveling or things like that. It's a traditional business. It's a software, it's a service. It's something that's not very visual. Likewise, I don't have loads of resources to share. I don't have guides, I don't have blogs, that sort of thing. And even worse, I just don't have the time to create lots of content. And my answer to all of these is, don't worry. You don't need to create anything. Just be very good at finding other people who do create and find the people who like their content. So if you go to LinkedIn lead generation on a sort of LinkedIn search in this example, on the drop down, you can click content, and then you'll see a lot of examples like this one here from Curtis, which he's made a post, LinkedIn lead generation live training. So if I want to target people to use my LinkedIn software, I'm not going to make tons and tons of posts because yes, it's a very good way to drive traffic and raise awareness, but I simply don't have time. So all I do is click on those 70 people who liked Curtis's post. And there you go. There's a list of people who are interested in LinkedIn lead generation training that I'll then manually reach out and connect with them. Now you might think that's not very fair. That's a bit sly. That's not good. They're going to do the same thing to you anytime you post. So all of this is public data. LinkedIn makes it public to see who's liking your comments, who's interacting with your comments, because they want you to see these people. If not, they would make this data hidden for just the person who made the post. So if this data is public and you can just click on it, then use it. So if you see these people here, if you simply type in LinkedIn your search term, click more at the very top and click content in the drop down, look at some posts that are relevant, click on the people, you're now starting to see your target audience that might be interested in your brand. So that's another way. And again, you can reach out to these manual. Next one is LinkedIn groups. So one of the hardest things people will find is that when they're using LinkedIn, they struggle to find a real niche. So they say, my business is so niche, nobody's going to be interested. It's blockchain for cryptocurrency for people for a certain age and a certain location and a certain whatever. And they say, it's so niche, I just can't find people who are my target audience. And my answer is, don't worry. Most of the time, unless your idea is the newest idea that's ever come across this week, there's probably a group already agreed, already organized by somebody else. So if you go on LinkedIn and just type in a search term, startup, HR, travel, whatever you are looking for, and instead of content, now click groups, you'll see a list of all of the groups that are showing. Now, a bit of advice from this, a group that might have 50,000 people, or you can see the second one, a startup specialist group with 400,000 people. You might think this is amazing. There's a huge target audience here. However, I would say the opposite. The bigger the group, the less it's managed and the lower the quality of people that are going to be in the group that are relevant. So this startup specialist group is basically letting anybody in that wants to join. So if you join that group, the likelihood is some people are going to be your target audience, but there's going to be a lot of mess in there, a lot of recruiters, a lot of salespeople, a lot of spammers. It's going to be a total mess. If you can find a group with something like 1,000 people in, or even 500 people, that's an amazing group. This is a group that's well moderated, and only the people in there are very interested in your specific topic. So I would say look for a group with a smaller number of a very, very niche audience. Then if you request to join the group, again, what you can then do is click see all on the top right, and you can see the first 2,500 people in the group. You can't see any more than that. So even if the group's bigger than that, that's the only people you can see in the group. But still, now you can see these people in the group. Again, you can manually reach out to them and say, hey, Patrick, I saw we're both part of the Startup and Entrepreneurs Network group. Great to connect and share ideas, that sort of thing. So you've got a bond. You've got a way to personalize and get to know them. However, there's one thing about this, and I think when you're looking to join LinkedIn groups, think about this, that there are also other people with the same idea that aren't looking to be sold to, but are looking to sell. So you need to make sure you find the right LinkedIn groups, and the more niche and the more specific, the better. So there's a phrase in American where they say the riches are in the niches. If you're in England and you say niche, it doesn't really work. The riches are in the niche. But if you say niche, then the riches are in the niches, which basically the smaller, the more niche the group is, the higher quality they are, the more likely they're going to like what you offer. There's also one other trick. If you try and connect with somebody or message somebody on LinkedIn, you have to connect with them. And you have to send a connection, they have to accept, and you can speak to them. Or you send an email where you have to pay for it. However, if you join a LinkedIn group and both people are in the LinkedIn group, you can send somebody a message directly without having to connect with them. So if you've got somebody very, very influential that you can't get in touch with, if you know they're part of a group, join the group, then you can just message them directly. It goes straight to their inbox on the laptop, on the phone, and now you're in correspondence with them. So that's one quick trick that's amazing for LinkedIn groups. But if we go back to the theme where we're up to at the moment, and this is if you can find a LinkedIn group and can join it, you can see all the members there and you can reach out to them one by one. But again, we're going to automate that and I'm going to show you. And the final block for LinkedIn is this one here, LinkedIn searches. So probably the most obvious one, but the one I do the least. And this is the reason why. If I type in startup founder that's in Lithuania and that they're in the industry of internet. So probably a tech startup business, which would be great for my target audience. I'll see a list of people here. And that list of people will be anybody that's my first, second, or third degree connection. So first degree is we're connected and we're friends. Second degree is we're connected, so one of your friends is my second degree. Third degree is we're connected, one of your friends is a second degree, and one of their friends could be linked to me. Fourth degree that LinkedIn doesn't show you is this person exists, but there's no ties to them. So on LinkedIn, if you search for people, it's going to show you a list of all people that are relevant to you based on your network and the titles you've searched for. In theory, that's the most specific search. The problem with this, however, is that none of these people have any buying interest. There's nothing to say these are interested in what you're trying to sell. It just says this is their job. And so you presume, based on the job they do, they would like what you want. So the reason that I like LinkedIn groups, LinkedIn learning, LinkedIn content, these people are, one, they're active on LinkedIn. They're joining groups, they're interacting with posts, they're trying to study. So if I message them on LinkedIn, at least I know they're going to be online. The other thing is they have an interest in improving themselves, to network, to learn more, to attend courses. Apart from these people here, they might simply just be happy in their ways. So if you go back to the personalization of LinkedIn, if you just reach out to people based on their job title, there's nothing in common. The only thing in common is you're a founder of a business, I've got a product, do you want to buy? It doesn't really work. And this is where people are getting in trouble on LinkedIn, because they're just blanket reaching out to lots and lots of people based on just job title, and it doesn't really work. There's nothing in common, not many people accept, and their accounts are being flagged. However, there are ways to personalize this a bit better that I'm going to show you. But either way, if you look at this, you're at the point where people can connect one by one, and you can reach out to these people. So what you do have here is 4 different ways to find your target audience on LinkedIn, find people and message them with 0 software, with 0 cost. The only cost of all of this is your time to find the people and then one by one reach out to them. So I could pretty much stop the talk here, and I think you'd have a lot of advice to think, great, I'm going to apply this now. I'm going to find people from LinkedIn Learning. I'm going to reach out to them, and I'm going to start generating leads. And that would be good enough. But that's not good enough for me. I want to find a way to automate that. So that's running in the background so I can start on something else. And this is what I want to show you. So once we found all that target audience, the next thing is scraping it. And this is the level you go from beginner doing manual work to advanced, finding amazing ways to speed things up. And this is how we do it. So the software is called phantombuster.com. And each of the ways to scrape are called phantoms. So if you were to scrape a LinkedIn group, that's called a phantom. If you were to scrape LinkedIn learners, that's called a phantom. And what I mean by scrape is you download all of the people from a LinkedIn group onto a spreadsheet that you can then use to do whatever you want to do, to connect with them, to email them, to do more research. But that's what I mean by scraping, getting the information from one place to another place to use in a different way. So Phantom Buster is my favorite ever tool. This is started very, very techy and very complicated. And as it's developed, it's now very simple. So I would say about 4 clicks of a button, you can go from a LinkedIn group to downloading and having 2,000 people on a spreadsheet, looking at them with their name, their LinkedIn profile, everything like that. So I would recommend have a look at this tool. And this is my approach. So you've seen on the left already my core blocks. So LinkedIn Learning, content, groups, and LinkedIn Search. And if you look at Phantom Buster, this is actually screenshots from that page. So what you'll see is one of the phantoms is called LinkedIn Learning Likers. So if you use this phantom, basically all you have to do is copy the URL of the learning course, paste it into Phantom Buster, click search, and it will scrape all of the people who like the course. If you find content, so you find people that are liking posts, that are interacting in posts, and it's very relevant to you, use the phantom called LinkedIn Post Likers. And what this will do is you add the URL of the post, paste it into Phantom Buster, click search, and it scrapes all the people who like the post. And one amazing thing about Phantom Buster is you can either add one at a time, so one course, one group, one post, or you can add a Google Doc with all of them lined up. So imagine this, you spent the rest of today looking at all LinkedIn learning courses, or you spend the rest of the day looking at all posts that you've made and your competitors have made, and you put them on a Google Doc. And the Google Doc simply has URL of the course and name of the course, or URL of the post, name of the post, something like that. And you could have 100 of these, 100 groups, 100 posts, 100 courses, 100 LinkedIn searches. You could add them to a spreadsheet. Then you put them into Phantom Buster and press search, and it scrapes everybody from them. So imagine this example, and this is what I do with a lot of startups that I work with Startup Wise guys. One of the first things I do when we're talking about competitors is just to say, let's see who's liking your competitors. Let's try and figure out who are these people. So if you go to Phantom Buster, find your competitors' posts, scrape them, you start to get a feeling for who's liking their posts, what type of people are. And this is either good for a general exercise to get a feeling for people, or more specific exercise to say, here's a target audience, now we can go for them. But the point of this is you can go from finding your audience on LinkedIn, using the software called Phantom Buster, and then scraping all the information. So if you think of where we're up to at the moment, you have a database now, if you do this right, of all of the people from that have attended courses, that are looking at content, groups, searches, that sort of thing. There's one caveat to that, and this is where you need to be organized. So a lot of the things I try and do, I'll show you how to very, very quickly scrape information, but you have to then slow down. And the reason you need to slow down is you need to check that that data is relevant. However, if you just do what I do completely and skip this part, you're going to really break anything, because you're going to scrape 1,000 people from a group, message 1,000 people, and a lot of people will reply things like, I'm your competitor, I'm your customer, I'm your investor, I'm not your target audience, there's no interest to me. There are still people that aren't always relevant. So you need to do this. When you look at the data that you get from LinkedIn scraping, it looks a little bit like this. So you have the page URL of what you've scraped from, a LinkedIn profile, a LinkedIn group, LinkedIn content, LinkedIn learning. Then you have the first name and the last name. This is great because all of your messaging should be personalized to their first name. Never, hello, sir, dear info, to whom this is concerned. Never. LinkedIn and email messaging should always be first name. The other thing is you have the profile URL. So that's going to be very, very helpful for when we find email addresses that I'm going to show you. And then column F, you have the headline, which is their job title. So my job title is Head of Growth at Prospect Labs, or Head of Growth at Startup Wise guys, sorry. So that's the headline. The profile image is the picture on the LinkedIn profile, and then the timestamp is simply when you scraped it, which is not so relevant. So if you think of headline, what's really important here is you need to filter this by people that are relevant. So on Google Docs, on Excel, you can select the whole page, add a filter, and then filter it maybe by A to Z, by alphabetical. And what you're looking for is titles that are not relevant. I don't know a quick way to do this, and maybe there's somebody on the call that can email me and say, I have a software that you would love that does this for you. Brilliant. But this is the one manual part that I do because this is quality control. I'm removing anybody that might be a little bit awkward if I message them, or they're my competitors, or they're just not relevant and it's a bit of a waste of time. So go back to this point of hyper-personalization. I want people to feel like we haven't met, but we've got a lot in common. It would make sense to connect and get to know each other. And so for that reason, I want to make sure these are relevant people. So if I target people that have nothing in common, have no interest with me, it's going to be very difficult to get them to connect or to reply to my emails. So what I need to do is filter this up, tidy it up, make sure it's ready, and delete anybody that's not suitable. Once I do that, you're left with a database that you think, okay, where do I go from here? And I'd say this is the next step. You need to find tools that you can automate, that are safe and that can automate and that you're in control. Now, this is a really difficult space to be because, as I showed you previously, if you Google safe LinkedIn automation tools, you're going to see two types of content. One type of content will say, no LinkedIn tools are safe, stay away from them, they will break your account. Then you'll see other softwares that will say, the safest LinkedIn software on the planet, sign up with us, we'll help you. It's very hard for you to know what to do. So my background in terms of why I class myself as an expert on this One of my clients was a company called DuckSoup, DUX-SOUP.com. A really, really silly name, but sometimes silly names stick. And they're the biggest LinkedIn automation tool in the world. They have about 80,000 customers and have been going for about 8 years now. So I worked with them for 2 years, and my plan working with them was I had to do customer service, build a customer service team, help them design the website, help them build a knowledge base, help them with podcasts, help them with blogs, a lot of these sorts of things. And I learned so much detail of what goes on both sides of LinkedIn, both in terms of what's good and what's bad and what you can and can't do. But there's one thing that you can't do, and that's use an automation tool that is not registered as safe. And what I mean by registered is basically there's no LinkedIn approval, there's no seal, but they do all the things you need to make it safe. So I would recommend this tool. Basically, obviously, it's my tool, but I've built this based on the past couple of years of knowing which tools work, knowing which tools I like, and then developing my own because there's a certain amount of things that I needed that would work well. So a few things on safety. If you think about when you use a LinkedIn automation tool, the messages you're sending, so the connection messages and the follow-up messages are going to be sent from this software, the same way that you might use an email automation tool like MailChimp. It'll send the email on your behalf, but from their software. The problem with LinkedIn is if you use a software, a lot of the time a LinkedIn message is sent from the IP address of the company, not your LinkedIn account. So imagine you sign up to a company that's based in the US and you're in Lithuania. LinkedIn will flag your account as saying somebody from the US has tried to log into your account. This looks very, very suspicious to LinkedIn that you're based in Lithuania, but a US company is sending messages and interacting with your account. So what Prospect Labs will do is let you set a private IP on your account based on the country you're based from. So if you're based in Lithuania, you choose Lithuania as your country when you sign up. That's step one to make sure LinkedIn doesn't ever sort of are suspicious that another person or another tool is interacting with your account. Step two is it's cloud-based. So if you look at a lot of LinkedIn tools, you'll see a split of two. One are Chrome plugins. So you go to the Chrome plugin store, you type in LinkedIn automation, and you'll see a lot of tools. The problem with this is LinkedIn are getting better and better all the time at detecting what tools you're using via your browser. And so I would say stay away from them at all costs. If you can have a cloud-based tool that doesn't use a Chrome plugin, that is just a login and runs in the background on the company servers, it's a lot safer. So Prospect Labs were cloud-based. So make sure if you use a LinkedIn tool, never a Chrome plugin would be my advice. The third thing is the speed of your messaging. So I have a default setting that you can't send more than 100 messages on my software. No matter how aggressive you want to be, 100 is the maximum. However, I recommend you to only send 30 connections per day, regardless of how much money you're spending on LinkedIn or how big your account is or anything like that. Because slow and steady all the time for years is better than fast and crazy and your account gets blocked, which a lot of people are experiencing. So on Prospect Labs, we give you the option to say how many connections you want to send per day and how many days, Monday to Friday, and bits on the weekend. The final thing is Prospect Labs gives the option to give your account days off. So if you're on holiday, if you want to give your account a break, you block out days on Prospect Labs, that gives it a rest. So you'll find other tools that you can be way more aggressive. So that tool called DuckSoup that I mentioned before, you can send 500 connection messages in a day if you want to, but it will definitely get your account blocked. So Prospect Labs is all about safety and safety with automation. But the other thing is, and this is the most important one I want to share today, we integrate with Hyperize. So if you think of that software I showed you before, Hyperize.io, and we discussed before that you can use Hyperize to make your website bespoke, you can also use Hyperize to make your LinkedIn campaigns bespoke. So I would be surprised if anybody's received this before, where you've received a LinkedIn connection message and the picture underneath the message is both bespoke with your profile picture, your name, maybe a picture of your website, maybe some information about your profile, that sort of thing. So I think this is quite a cheesy example, and I don't think it's the best example for using this. This is not to necessarily do for fun. However, humor is an amazing selling tool if you can get it right. So think of a stand-up comedian. A funny stand-up comedian is the best experience ever. You laugh so much. A stand-up comedian who's not so good, you feel awkward and terrible, and it just doesn't quite work. So if you're going to use humor in your accounts, go all in and be very funny and take the risk. but I don't necessarily recommend you have to use humor. So this is one example, but the way I use LinkedIn is I will have a picture of your profile picture, and it will say, I would love to invite you to my group, or I'd love you to introduce you to my newsletter. I would love to interview you for my blog. I would love to give you a bespoke demo of Prospect Labs and how it can impact your business. But they're looking at a picture of their profile picture, of a tagline, some text, and it's either very professional or it's very funny. But the point is, it's very, very personalized. Now, a lot of you might look at this and think, oh, this is spam, this is stupid. My advice would be just test it out if you are already using LinkedIn a lot to see how this can make things more personalized. And you'll be amazed of the reactions you get. And the reason is this: think of your target audience at home. They're all like you are at the moment. They're sat in a cold, gloomy November morning. They're trying to build their business. They're trying to do all sorts of things. They're getting tons of LinkedIn messages. And suddenly they get a message which is so bespoke, which has a bit of humor, which has something individual, that it just brightens their day that little bit. And I've seen some amazing examples of people say, you've really made me laugh. You've made me cheer up. You've really brightened my day. And think about this. Sales is not about selling your product. Sales is about selling yourself and then introducing your product. And so if you can do anything to break the ice to get speaking, it's amazing. This is physical networking. You might tell a quick joke. You might tell a quick anecdote. You might do something, and then you break the ice and you get to know each other. Even think about dating. You have to find a way to break the ice before you get to know somebody. So here's one question for all of you. If you think of your partner at the moment, your husband, your wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, previous partners, what was the very first thing that you said to them? And not many people can remember. They would say, oh, I was just drunk and got chatting at a bar or something like that. The point is, it doesn't matter as long as you get talking to them. And so if you can find something that makes you individual and breaks the ice a lot better in terms of messaging somebody than your competition, it's amazing. Now you can use humor, or you could have a picture that will say, hi, Patrick, we've made a bespoke guide just for you on LinkedIn lead generation strategies. Would love you to check it out. And as a picture of a guide, it has your profile picture and it might have your company logo and that sort of thing. The point is, with this software, you can automate anything you want based on somebody's LinkedIn profile and adapt it to your picture and your message. What this means is that you can send 1,000 messages, but each person feels like they're getting an individual message with an individual picture and an individual bit of text. And even if the person on the other side doesn't know how you've done this, but still feels it's a bit automated, they're interested. So if you're a salesperson selling a sales product at all, people love this. If you're doing something with food, with travel, with something where you can have a bit of humor, it's wonderful. If you're selling an online course, if you're selling an experience, it can work really, really well. So this is still very, very early in terms of ideas, that are not tons and tons of case studies of what works. But I really like this idea, and I use this simply to invite people to have a demo of my product. And I just have a picture of their face and a bit of text and a bit of my branding saying, I would love to introduce you to have a demo of how Prospect Labs can help you. And it works amazingly well. So although LinkedIn is getting much stricter, I'm very confident of how I use LinkedIn and how I train other people and how customers use my platform because of things like this, because of the direct integration with Hyperize. So if you create a campaign on Prospect Labs, you sync it with Hyperize and you just pull in any of the pictures and any of the campaigns you want to use. So that's how I try and make all my LinkedIn approaches completely bespoke. However, there's a stage here. So website, sort of tick, and LinkedIn, sort of ticked. I know none of you on this call will say, cool, that makes complete sense, agreed, I'm going to do it. But can you go to hyperize.io and get a demo and see if it works for you? Can you go to phantombuster.com, get a demo and see if it works for you? Do you want to email me or go to prospectlabs.co, get a demo and see if it can help you? All of these have to be user-friendly because they want to grow and scale. So they need to make it easy for you to get demos, to get set up, to give you the support to build this for yourself. But also all of these businesses are based on, once you know how to do it, that's it, it's easy. So I would say if you can look into these approaches, you can not only go from finding your target audience on LinkedIn, not only go for finding really bespoke people that are hyper personalized in terms of interest, you can send automated campaigns with images, with names, with companies that really engage with the person. And this is all automation. So you could set this up, and by Monday next week, you could be sending 30 or 40 connection messages per day and be expecting 5 to 6 people a day replying, saying, sounds interesting, how does it work, what's the cost, that sort of thing. This is an approach to get you hundreds of leads per month, which is getting you up to about 50 per month of good quality people that engage with what you do. So this is a B2B approach. Don't think this is a B2C approach to try and get 1,000 app downloads of targeting everybody like crazy. It can be good for getting people to webinars, to events, that sort of thing. But remember, this is a sort of one-to-one approach and one-to-one relationship. However, there are a few things. LinkedIn seems good, website seems good, but what about emails? So a lot of you won't even use LinkedIn at all at the moment. You'll be very focused on direct email marketing and how to do it. And one of the difficulties people have is they spend way too long trying to find email addresses. So traditional approach will be you'll go onto Google, you'll find a company, you'll click on the website, you'll go to the contact page, and you'll find either an email address or contact form. You'll fill out the contact form, and that will go to general info or general support. Your email is very general because you don't know who you're messaging and you don't have anything really specific for them. The person on the other side isn't the decision maker. They're general admin support, customer support, and they might forward it to the right person, but more than likely they'll just move to spam or just delete it. So the point with all of this is it's a bit of a waste of time. Likewise, even if you find their email address on their website and you go into LinkedIn or on the website and list who the person is and you email them, it still might be a generic email. So what I'm trying to show you is all of your emailing should be personalized. And don't worry yet about images and anything technical. Simply, you should never email somebody if you don't know who you're emailing, their first name, last name, their job title, and their company. So I want to show you a software of how we can do this. And the tool that I want to show you is going to be called Snovio, snov.io. And the context of this tool is this. You can scrape information from basically anywhere to turn it into an email address. So what I mean by this is LinkedIn to start with. You can upload any of the data that you use to scrape from Phantom Buster, upload a spreadsheet into this tool, and it will convert people from LinkedIn profile to email address. And not only will it do that, it will say, is their email address valid or not? So there will be other tools on the market that you might have used. So hunter.io is a very popular one. The problem with that is hunter.io isn't as accurate as Snovio for finding validated email addresses. So if you can see on the top right of my screen, there's sort of 3 colors, green, yellow, and red. And so green means validated. So green is the valid email address. So when we go back to this point of, and you're probably all frantically typing or shouting, saying, well, what about GDPR? Is this not illegal? Let's go back to that again. GDPR is not built to stop salespeople selling. It's built to stop people spamming and harassing people who are not interested. So if I email all of you saying, you've got to check out these trainers, you have to buy them, there's all sorts wrong. There's no legitimate interest. What I'm selling and what you're interested in, there's no link. So I can do a Facebook ad, a Google ad, but if I email you trying to sell something that there's no legitimate interest from what I'm offering and what you're looking for, it's not compliant. So what I would say is only be emailing people that have a like-minded interest. So if I found you on LinkedIn that you're studying a LinkedIn lead generation course, and I'm a LinkedIn lead generation software that wanted to introduce myself to help you with LinkedIn lead generation, you get the point. There's lots of LinkedIn lead generation terminology popping up there. We have things in common. I have legitimate interest of why I'm messaging you, and I think you'd have legitimate interest in why you'd want to speak to me. The other one, and the most important one, who are you emailing? If I email you all with Gmail, and you can use Snovio to scrape personal emails as well as business, if I scrape your personal email and you're checking Gmail and you see an email pop up with me, sign up for Prospect Labs now, it's not compliant. I'm targeting your personal space. So I can only email business email addresses. So at Prospect Labs, at Nike, at Adidas, at Yahoo, at not at Yahoo, sorry, but at, do you know what I mean? Corporate companies. So it needs to be a business email address. So don't use anything personal like Gmail, Yahoo, AOL, Hotmail, that sort of thing. So Snowvio will give you the option of when you sign up to go to account settings and change to say you can only scrape business email addresses. And this is really, really important. So if you only scrape business email addresses and you have the first name, you know it's valid, the final thing you need to do for GDPR compliance, you need to make sure that the person can unsubscribe if they want to. Now, I think this is common practice. If you're emailing somebody and they say, I'm not interested, it's fair enough that you want to hustle a little bit. You want to deal with objections and you would maybe want to know why they're not relevant. But one thing that's critical is if they say, don't message me again, can I unsubscribe? You need one of two things. You need to either have an unsubscribe link at the bottom of your email, or you need to say, no problem, I've unsubscribed you. And on Snowvio, you automatically move them to an unsubscribed list. They will never be messaged again. But a lot of this is sort of common sense. Don't email people's personal emails. Email people that are interested. And if they're really not interested, be polite and say no problem. GDPR or not, that should be common sense. So if you stick to all those things, then this opens up a world for you that anybody on LinkedIn, you can try and now find that email address. And so this is why at the start of the talk, when I say 80% of your leads may come from LinkedIn, it's not always LinkedIn as the lead generation source, but LinkedIn as a database is the starting point. So if you can do LinkedIn outreach via Prospect Labs, Hyperize, those sorts of things or manual, great. But you can also use the same data you've scraped from LinkedIn to send email campaigns also. And this is what this tool will do. So you can convert a LinkedIn profile to an email address. However, with Snowvio, you can also do a few other things. You can go to anybody's website, click on the website, and this uses a Chrome plugin, and it'll let you know all of the email addresses associated with a company. So if you want to do that traditional way of one by one going to companies, it's fine. You can still do that, click on the website, but instead of going to the contact page, this software will give you all of the email addresses. The other thing as well you can do is if you've got a list of websites, you can upload it to the software and you can try and find all the email addresses associated to a list of companies. So if you think about bulk marketing here and bulk scraping, on Phantom Buster, you could upload 100 LinkedIn learning courses, 100 posts, that sort of thing. On Snowvio, you could upload 100 websites, 1,000 websites, and on both of them, you just click search. And you're left with all the LinkedIn profiles for Phantom Buster and on Snowvio, all of the validated email addresses. So it's very, very scalable. Final thing about this is Snowvio also lets you find email addresses based on Google. So if you do a Google search for LinkedIn profiles, for companies, whatever, you can click Snowvio on Google and it'll scrape the emails from the people found on Google, which is incredible. And the final thing from Snowvio is it lets you find email addresses based on technology. So if I can choose that anybody that uses Salesforce CRM or HubSpot or Pipedrive CRM is a salesperson, I can scrape anybody who uses that software, find their email address, and then target them, introduce myself saying, I know you use Pipedrive for sales. I think Prospect Labs could help you generate more leads. Would love to have a chat. So there are so many ways where you can find your audience, automate it, and be very, very high quality. All okay? Good. So you can see Olga, Elenia, sorry, 1 second, I'll just check. Hopefully that's all okay for everybody. You can see these people here on emails that have been scraped. So what you can do with this is you can manually reach out to them and say, dear Olga, or you could run an email campaign from Snowvio. And this is what I want to show you. So like this whole theme, Snowvio integrates with Hyperize. So what it means is that on Snowvio, you can download all the LinkedIn profiles to email addresses to have your database. You can send all of the emails from Snowvio called email drip campaigns. So that's email 1, email 2, email 3. But not only that, you can personalize everything. So again, I think this sort of GIF or image is a little bit stupid, but it's trying to just bring the image alive. And this is from the Hyperize site. It's not my personal one. But what this is trying to show you is that you can create a bespoke image in Snowvio using whatever you want, an image, a profile picture, a job title, that sort of thing. So you can find a way of sending emails that really get people excited and interested, that are very bespoke. Now, should you really send a picture of I don't know what that is, a bulldog? Possibly, but it's a bit too cheesy and a bit silly. But could you send a picture that's a guide, maybe a picture of a book with a LinkedIn profile picture, their name, and an email saying, "Hi, Patrick, we've created an intro to LinkedIn lead generation. I would love to share with you. Please click on this to see the guide." That could work amazingly well. Or something like, "We've created to invite you to join our webinar where we talk about how it's going to work." And you have a picture of the course and their name and their profile. So think about these ideas. And if we loop all this back in, it goes back to the still okay? Good. Sorry. Apologies to anybody. I think this is what we have to face when we're working online, that sometimes internet goes in and out. But hopefully it's all okay. And we've got about 10-15 minutes left, so stick with me. So if with this point here, you create very, very bespoke email campaigns, then I think with this stage here, which is all of this puzzle. So if you think about LinkedIn searches, you have LinkedIn lead generation via LinkedIn groups, LinkedIn content, LinkedIn learning, and LinkedIn searches. You use Phantom Buster as this tool, and Phantom Buster can scrape all the information. And then you use Phantom Buster to upload it to Prospect Labs. Prospect Labs integrates with Hyperize, and you have this hyper-personalized campaign where you're sending people connection messages with images and dynamic merge tags. So dynamic merge tags are first name, last name, company, about, job title, connections in common, country or based, anything like that. And then you think of email. You find all the LinkedIn profiles, you put them through Snowvio, you convert them all to emails, valid emails. You create your email campaign in Snowvio, which is email 1, a delay, email 2, a delay, email 3, that sort of thing. You sync it with Hyperize, highly bespoke images, and both these are running. Before I show you the final one, I get a lot of questions on this point. And the question is, should I run both of these at the same time? Should I be messaging on LinkedIn? Should I be emailing? And should I be calling? Or what order do I do everything? And this is the way I look at it. If you think of the numbers and you find 1,000 people on LinkedIn and you try and connect with 1,000 people, if you can get 50% to connect with you or even 40% to connect with you, it's a really, really good number. So think from those 1,000 people, 600 instantly will never connect with you. So you're down to 400 people. Out of those 400 people, if you can get maybe 20%, 30% to reply to your messages, that's good. So out of 400, you're now down to 85, 100, 120, that sort of thing. So from your target audience on LinkedIn of 1,000 people, only really 100 to 150 are going to interact with you and know about what you're offering. Now let's change this to email. If you find 1,000 LinkedIn profiles and you try and find their business emails, you're not going to find 1,000 business emails. You're going to find something like 400 emails. So Snowvio tries to find valid business emails, and it's not possible to get 100%. So it'll find roughly 40% of the emails it tries to scrape. So from those 1,000 people you're going to email, you've got 400 emails. Now think about this. From these 400 emails, how many people are going to open your email? And again, if you can get 40 or 50%, it's very, very good. Then out of those people that are going to open your email, how many people are going to reply to your email? And again, if you can get 10, 20%, it's very good. So basically what I'm saying is this target audience of 1,000 people, you're only going to be left with something like 100 people on LinkedIn and 100 people on email that are actually going to reply to you. Now, the question is, are these going to be the same 100 people? And probably not. And are these going to be the same 100 people, even if they are the same, getting the same message at the same time? Probably not. So you could go into a huge amount of work to try and make sure that everything's cross-referenced, that you don't message the same person in the same way, the same time. But my advice is this: don't worry about it. The very, very small chance that somebody will reply to you and say, you've already emailed me and they reply to you on LinkedIn and say, please leave me alone. no problem. You can simply apologize and say, apologies, I really wanted to get in touch with you. I'll make sure you're not contacted again. Or apologies, I know you got back to email and we've already got a call, keep in touch. But just simply by doing that, saves you hours of work of cross-referencing all the time. And the reason this is so difficult is because LinkedIn does not integrate with any other email platforms. So Prospect Labs will integrate with Hyperize and integrate with other tools, but LinkedIn as a platform does not. What this basically means is that if you connect with somebody, it would be very difficult. There's possibilities, but very, very technical to do this, where you can send an automation to email to then say, unsubscribe, don't message this person. So basically what I mean is that try and keep it very simple. Push LinkedIn, push email, go at the same time. The only way around this, if you're concerned, is I would say push LinkedIn first. Anybody who does not connect with you, you can download those people and you can upload those into Phantom Buster or to Snowvio. Then find the email addresses of any people that don't connect with you to email them, and you know they've not been contacted, and then email them. The final bit is about calling. As I said at the start of the talk, a lot of times when you're trying to call people, originally you'd call the office. And although offices are still open and rerouting calls, I would be interested to learn, because I'm not doing tons and tons of cold calling, or if any recently, how easy is it to get direct to the person you want to speak to? Or do you have to direct so many different lines that there's more gatekeepers to stop you? I'm not so sure. But it's very, very difficult to find anybody's personal mobile number. And I don't even honestly know if it's compliant to cold call a mobile, but I wouldn't like to be cold call on mobile myself. So my point is, try LinkedIn first, then try email. And then if there is a way to call, try ringing somebody and say, I've been trying to get in touch with somebody, it's not too responsive. Can you confirm the best email address or the best number for this person, and give it a try. But if you think of the speed of all of this compared to what you're currently doing, manual messaging, manual LinkedIn, or if you think of you're already automating all of this, how much better you can possibly be with being either more bespoke or using the right software. Hopefully you've gone throughout all of this talk from sort of beginner understanding of this to now an advanced understanding of this. I appreciate there are a lot of moving parts. I'm giving a talk in Lithuania. I live in Lithuania, and this whole talk is in English. However, my wife is Lithuanian, and when I go through the slides with her, she often says, there's not even a Lithuanian word for what you're trying to train. So even if this was in Lithuanian, I think half of it would still be in English. But it is my goal to try and speak more Lithuanian. So I am really grateful that everybody's willing to listen to me in English. It means a lot. But my final point that I want to show you with all of this is there's one extra step. We've talked about LinkedIn messaging as pictures and sort of that sort of thing. We've talked about emails, we've talked about website. There's one final one that I would like to show you. So this is a picture of Donald Trump signing some legislation, and on his legislation, he has a picture of my website, a screenshot of the homepage, my URL, and then a message saying, Patrick is really great, I'll give him A+. This is obviously not Donald Trump's best work. This is a GIF, and this is a personalized GIF. So the idea of this is, again, using Hyperize, you can make dynamic GIFs. So you can either, think about this, you can either record your own video, or you can use a celebrity like somebody like Donald Trump, integrate it with Hyperize, and then when you email people on your website, on whatever it is, you can get them to click on an image which will show bespoke of their website, their URL, and their message. Now, I think this is completely ridiculous, and that is why I love it. So I don't recommend any of you use this for lead generation. I don't recommend you start adding this to campaigns, because I don't know how people are going to react. But what I do think is, if you're doing something like a landing page, an individual page, direct people to a course or a webinar or something like this, just test this out and think, what sort of reaction do you get? And if the reaction makes somebody smile, regardless if they sign up or not, is that a positive thing for the moment? And I really do think it is. So I'm going to play this one last time, because it genuinely makes me laugh every time I watch it. So think of the technology I've showed you today, and let's just wrap up. So this world that I've tried to show you today is a world where things are automated, but things are personalized and more fun. Now, my context behind all of this is I want to help people. I want to make an influence on their life. So if I'm a salesperson, I've got a strong moral compass. I will not speak to you unless I think what I'm selling will add value. Not I want to sell you something because I need to hit my targets and if you need it or not. So when I speak to somebody and they say I'm using a competitor, if the competitor is better than me, I'll say, okay, they've got a lot of features we don't have. You're best to stay there. Because my moral compass and my guidance is help everybody. And you'll be amazed how many things come back to you. I've said to people, oh, you should stick with that software. They're your competitor. They've got better features. And they've still come back to me and said, well, that's true. However, the support's not so good and you seem very genuine. I'll be interested in trying working with you guys. So my approach is being very, very honest. Now, this is where it gets difficult. I want to be honest. I want to help as many people as I can. If I manually message people on LinkedIn and email and that sort of thing, I could help a very small selection and I could speak to a very small selection, but it'd be very bespoke. If I automate that, then suddenly you might be thinking, well, do you really care? If you're sending the same message to everybody, how much do you care? And the point is, of course I do, but I don't have the time, like all of you, to send lots and lots of messages. And I presume you're in the situation at the moment where your sales were going well and went well. It hit something like February, March this year, and the whole market just disappeared. It changed. And so you're trying to come up with creative ways to break the ice, to get to know people, to boost what you're doing. And so what I've tried to show you today is how to find your target audience in a more efficient way, which is incredibly important. How to scrape the information to do what you want to do. So a lot of you might not even use Phantom Buster or Synovio. You might use your own tools, but you might still use LinkedIn and Phantom Buster to scrape, but then send it to some or use other software. So I want you to know how to find your target audience, how to find their profiles. I want you to know how to find their email addresses from Synovio. If you can do all of that, you could stop and just be manual. But then what I want you to really learn today is there are more creative ways to get a spile to break the ice, and Hyperize is that one. So hyperize.io will show you how to make your website bespoke, make your LinkedIn posts or messages bespoke, make your emails bespoke, as in dynamic. It can also work with Facebook ads, and it can also work with QR codes. So if any of you have got a physical business where you send something, what you can do with Hyperize is add a QR code to the parcel, whatever it might be. When they scan the QR code, it shows up on your website and your message on your website is personalized to them. So instead of check your booking, hey, Patrick, how is your delivery? Any problems, just give us a call. We love working with Prospect Labs, and so keep in touch. So your landing pages could be completely bespoke, still based off physical to digital. So Hyperize is just a crazy software for what you can achieve. And then the final thing is look at something completely unique. So the problem with a lot of training is people always teach you think out of the box. And this could be a 90-minute presentation on think big, be ambitious, be more determined, which is all great. But what do you do when I finish? I wanted this talk for you to say, great, I've learned some things. I'm now going to research a bit. I'm now going to test. And this knowledge is unique to everybody on this. So nobody at Prospect Labs that I work with even knows we integrate with Hyperize. We're going to release that in about 2 weeks' time. So I can guarantee that the only people who know that all this software combined together are the only people on this call. And that's completely genuine. So to finish here, this is my email address, patrick@startupwiseguys.com. If you want any support, copy of the slides, want a bit of advice, if you want to meet for coffee sometime in Lithuania when the world's a little bit of a better place, I would love that. So please get in touch with me. I hope this has helped you so far. And that's everything from me, just to wrap up for today. So thank you for all your time and take care.
Thank you, Patrick, so much for your presentation. It was really interesting to hear all those tips and tricks how you can do the growth hacking, and So now we will start our workshop at 10:45. So we still have 20 minutes. So I will ask all the participants of SEB Accelerator to come back 10:45, and other people, thank you for joining, and I will ask to leave the Zoom for us.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you.
Keep in touch.